He's defeated every champion from every organization the sport of mixed martial arts has ever seen, and retired from the octagon as the biggest draw and the industry's highest paid athlete of all time. And now Chael Sonnen's on podcast1.com. And for that, you're welcome.
What's happening, guys? Happy Friday. We're going to get right into it. I am joined in studio by the strongest guy that I know. And I would highly doubt any of you guys know anybody stronger. This guy's got more world records. We'll get into it in a minute. Chris Duffin's in studio. Chris, what's going on, pal?
How you doing, Chael? Good to be here.
Hey, I'll tell you, one of your records that just stands out in my mind, and tell me if I'm exaggerating this, but I believe you squatted 4 times your body weight. It was 900 pounds.
I squatted, it was 881 pounds when I weighed 220 pounds.
Jeez. I got to tell you, that's a lot of weight.
It's pretty heavy. Once you got to be pretty confident when you got that on your back.
I imagine. Yeah, I mean, you got to work your way up to that. Isn't there physical problems? I mean, I know all the good things that come from working out, but when you're putting that much pressure on your knees, I've seen videos of guys that got to wrap their knees and they'll blow out at times. I mean, any concern of major injuries like that?
Well, when you're pushing the limits of what the body's capable of, you're always pushing those boundaries, and you've run that risk. At the same time, that's a big foundation of what my company is, teaching people how strength can improve life as a whole. And so there's a lot that we do with movement patterns and cueing and stuff that is used essentially in clinical practice now and rehab for people, and using these basic loaded movements of squats, deadlifts, and such to get people to be able to handle these fundamental patterns to improve their life and be part of basically, the rehab process or working with elderly populations. So that is in place in what I do. And I reflect back 10 years ago, 15 years ago, even with my training, I remember just my back hurt. I was beat up, all these things. And now I am so much stronger, yet so healthier, using those approaches. And, but yeah, I mean, you're pushing the limits. Things happen. Just last month, I tore my quad, and I couldn't do a bodyweight squat.
Ouch.
That was a month ago. Last night, I squatted 900 pounds and almost deadlifted 900 pounds.
Wow.
So in the same workout.
Yeah, that's incredible recovery. I wanted to have you on the show, and you and I have been friends for a very long time. And, even back in high school, I was there. I watched you wrestle for the state championship against Baumgartner. And though we hadn't met yet, the community is very small. It's like we know each other. I watched the progression of your business in your gym. I came down when you were on Southeast Foster Road. You put me through some fitness workouts, and it was small. And I watched this gym grow. I go into your operation a week ago. It's the most beautiful gym I've ever seen. It's the largest and most beautiful gym in the state of Oregon. You've got your own equipment in there, some of which you created and designed yourself. But from a business standpoint, you created $1 million business out of powerlifting. But Chris, what's compelling about you for me, and if I go too far with anything, please give me a hand signal and I'll switch. But what's compelling about me is things weren't always great for you. You had a very rough childhood. I don't know if you know that or if that's just how things were, but you are certainly the American dream.
At the time, I didn't have a full grasp on it. But reflecting back, it's the scope that I've seen in my life is just, it's sometimes you sit back and it's like, wow, it's surreal to be sitting where I am now from where I came from.
Can you talk a little about that? Can you talk a little bit about growing up and living in your car, if you don't mind, and the things that you had to go through? Yeah,
I'm very much about self-actualization. You are who you decide to be. So the story of my past, I don't really consider that's what made me, but I like to share it because it really does show people what you can accomplish if you have those beliefs, right? And I grew up essentially homeless, family of 6, living on $5,000 a year in the woods, literally foraging for food. We'd kill animals, forage for mushrooms. We lived, if we had a house, a lot of times it was something condemned with no electricity, no running water, constantly moving in very remote areas of Northern California and then Oregon. We were taken. Me and my 3 sisters and my brother were taken by the state for a while. And then, it's hard to describe to people. Literally we'd take gallon jugs, take them down to the stream, fill them with water and let them sit out in the sun to get warmed up because, for your once a week bath.
Oh, my goodness, you're kidding.
No. So, when people say, oh, I've got it poor, I've got it rough, like
you get an A for creativity, Chris. I can tell you that.
Like today I see people, it's like you see people that aren't doing well, but they still have they still have their smartphones and their nice clothes and stuff like that. I'm like, man, like literally the clothes were falling off of us. I've got some old pictures I've just shared on social media recently. And, it's like, you're treated differently. You show up at a store and you're this grungy family, coming out of the woods and, you want to talk about discrimination. You don't have to be, another race or anything like that to be discriminated against in America. I mean, people treat you differently. So I had, that's the environment I lived and grew up in. And, finally, like in high school, we got a place. It was a mobile home. Again, not the greatest place. Once we moved out after high school, the fire department burned it down because it wasn't livable. So it was one of their test areas, to do. But that's when you watch me wrestle, right?
Yeah.
And so that was like the best time period during that. And I ended up getting a full ride academic scholarship to go to college. And they didn't have a wrestling program but I'm like, I'm going where the money is. I wanted to wrestle, but you know what? They're paying for my school.
Sure.
And that's the number one thing. And then I ended up taking custody because after I left home, things got a lot worse at home. And by my senior year in college, I had started taking custody of my 3 sisters. I ended up raising my 3 younger sisters while I finished up my college degree. I went on to get my master's. I was working the whole time, obviously full time, because buying home, doing all the things I need to do to create the environment for them to be in. And that's, I was able to get them, out of that environment, get them through school and get their life started, which was really important to me. So,
Chris, who kept you focused? I mean, I'm trying to picture this, and I want to make sure I use the right words to be sensitive to this, but you had to be the stinky kid in class, for example. I mean, you just said
you basically, yeah. I mean, and you're made fun of because of you smell bad, your clothes are shit. Like that's, I didn't have friends.
But I mean, how did you stay on track to excel in sports, to do well in academia, to go on and be top of your class where you could get a scholarship? Those are hard to come by in any kind of scholarship, but particularly for academics. I mean, how did you stay on track and focused and not end up stuck in the system or stuck in the cracks or depressed or poor me? How?
I'm trying to figure that out today. Like, I've been doing a lot of writing and I'm posting some of it up, but I'm reflecting back and I'm honestly like, where did I come from? Like because I didn't have like those mentoring relationships. There wasn't like, like this person that, like, I don't know where it came from. Like, I was always very confident in myself and what I was going to accomplish. And I honestly don't know where it came from because I graduated, I took second at state to Baumgartner. I was better than him, by the way. I lost that match myself.
You had him on his back. He was a good wrestler. Baumgartner had a great career.
He was good. He didn't score an offensive point on me until Anyway, well.
Hey, you'll never forget about it. You want to talk about matches you wish you had back?
I'll never forget about that one. But anyway, and I was valedictorian for my high school, and I had the highest graduating engineering GPA coming out of college. And then I went on to have a really, really successful corporate career, which I've now walked away from. But yeah, I honestly don't know where it came from. Just other than like, I don't think I had any option. Like there was never any sort of fallback plan. I couldn't go back home and sleep on my parents' couch, or I couldn't there was nothing but, people commend me for the choices I made with my sisters. There was no choice in my mind. Like that was the only, what are you going to do? Let your sisters live on the streets in Portland or something like that. I mean, like there was no choices. There was nothing for me to do but focus one day at a time, put one foot in front of the next, and just keep advancing and keep moving. And I'm a pretty driven person, so.
Yeah, well, yeah, apparently. Now, is there any resentment there towards your parents or towards your upbringing? I mean, do you have any resentment? Was your situation created by bad choices or a lack of? I'm trying to find the right words because we're talking about your folks here, but I mean, this is a really tough story. There's government agencies that would step in, see this, and take you out of that environment. So,
and that did happen at one point.
Okay,
too. Yeah. there's no I mean, there was a couple-year period after I'd taken custody of my sisters, I didn't speak to my mom. So there was probably like 3 years or so that I didn't speak to her. But I've, moved past that. And my parents were just very different, very highly intelligent, like genius scale level. But just like my mom was the driver of everything. And she does not fit in society. I mean, today she lives far out in Eastern Oregon, has been working mines out there for a long time. She can outwork me and outwork anybody I've ever met, like, just sitting out there doing manual work, running excavators and just, she's an incredible woman, but she does not fit in society. And, she just can't handle that. And so, a lot of it was her choices. Things are legal now, but that was what they were doing back in the day up in Northern California was, she's like, what can I do and not live in society? We're going to go live out in the middle of the wilderness and grow some weed for a living. And that's essentially what, we were doing. So, living in tents and killing deer and killing rabbits and doing whatever it was to get by.
So,
and that's life.
Chris, it's very interesting to me, particularly coming in to your gym. I mean, I don't even know how big that, it must have been 5,000 square feet. You got people everywhere.
That 9,000, we're adding another 5,000 in April.
Yeah, I mean, it's this huge operation, and the kind of athletes that you have in there, I mean, these are guys with big goals. These are guys with world record and world championship aspirations. You've got world records and world championships. One of my takeaways was just, you are the helm of that. You are mentoring and helping change lives for a lot of people that are around you. Where do you feel compelled to do that? Because as you tell your story, you had said there wasn't really a mentor in terms of a coach or a teacher that brought you in and set you straight, that you had to do that yourself. But I noticed that you do give back to others. Is that a lot because of your upbringing? Are you creating an environment that you wish that you would have had?
So I don't know, but I know that the most rewarding thing that you can do is having an impact on someone else's life. Like, you walk off the platform after setting a record, it feels great. Helping somebody else do that, or changing somebody else's life, or getting somebody, that's out of pain and can't move, back in the game, getting a grandmother so she can pick up her, her grandkid, like things like that are like huge. And so, like, when I was in my corporate career for a number of years, that was the rewarding part, was being able to coach and mentor people and bring about change to their life. We've got a mutual friend who, I did the same thing with getting him a new career and getting things rolling, and like, things like that. That's power. Like, you want to leave a legacy, winning some fights, setting records. That's not a legacy. A legacy is when you leave an impact on people in the world. That's a legacy. It's what you give back. And that's what the foundation of our business is. We sell products, tools, and methods to help people live better. And you said powerlifting business, but it's really not. I mean, we're working with Major League Baseball, NFL, the NBA, U.S. Olympic Committee, some of the best rehab facilities in the world, the current collegiate basketball championship and the current collegiate football championships have outfitted their gym with our products. This is the impact that we're having. And, we get messages around the globe on a daily basis for people that follow our systems. And it's like, able to get them back in the game. They may have been in pain and now they're able to train again. They're able to move again. They're able to live their life. And, if they've been struggling with stuff, and that's what we do. And how can you not be driven to do that sort of thing? And I think that's the thing I'm most proud of, is the fact that I've always been able to leave my mark on people that have come into my life.
All right, so let's talk about some more fun stuff, because, one of the things about you, as I sit back as your friend, or I sit back and I study some of the stuff you do, you are a master marketer, and you have something out right now on YouTube. Joel and I were watching it this morning. Liquor and deadlifts.
Whiskey and deadlifts. I got it right here. Yeah.
Whiskey and deadlifts. What? First off, tell me what this. Reese was explaining it to me. He said there's something about you take a shot of whiskey and then you sit down and somebody pushes you in a chair to the next lift, and he was explaining the mechanics of it. I don't know what part was right or wrong, but I watched this entire thing. I saw the T-shirt. What in the hell is whiskey and deadlifts?
So whiskey and deadlifts. A number of years ago, I was reflecting on the Russians are well known for drinking vodka before they lift. And I'm like, there's something to this. So I started like researching it, and there wasn't a lot of like good research on it. So I had to dive, and then I started testing it. But essentially, think back. I know you're married now, but there was a time you're probably in your early 20s, and you're at a bar and your buddy is around. There's this good looking girl, over at the table over there. And you're like, God, I really want to go over there and talk to that girl. And what do? Your buddy say, well, have a shot of liquid courage. You have a shot, maybe two, maybe it's a beer, whatever your flavor is, right? And you know what? Your courage goes up. All the second guessing in your mind.
You get a little confidence.
The question, should I do it? What's there going to be a response? All that kind of shuts down. And if you walk over to that table, you're probably actually going to come off a little bit better, a little bit more confident than if you got. Now, if you had like 6 shots and went over there, you're going to make a fool of yourself.
Tipping point.
So that's the whole thing about whiskey. The whiskey and deadlift is it's all about timing and amount, but there is actual foundation for it. So, the first people, you're familiar with WADA, right?
Of course.
So the first ever failure for a WADA was for alcohol, and it's there's also a really famous. It was in the Olympics as well. It was a marathon back in 1904 or 1906, where it was one of the worst Olympic marathons on event. They were running it, and it was just this dusty, high heat, dust, all this stuff, and the guy in the lead just started failing. And they ended up reviving him with brandy. And he got back up and ended up finishing and completing the race after being revived with brandy. But anyway, there's actually a history of alcohol use all the way back into the original Olympics. And so that's why I started, once I started doing the research, there's something to it. But it does some things. Like I said, a lot of it's psychological with, reducing inhibition, increasing that courage. Whatever mood you're in is going to heighten. So usually if you're you're lifting or something, you're in this pumped up mood. So it's even though it's a depressant, it's going to have a stimulatory effect. Has a slight increase in blood pressure. There's an immediate spike post alcohol where it spikes your blood pressure. So it's going to make the weight actually feel lighter. It's going to reduce the feeling of pain sensation. So there's a whole lot of things. You combine it together, and then it's a preferential energy source, and it's almost as dense as fats, but faster acting than carbs. And it goes right to the front of everything else. So you get this immediate boost. So the whiskey and deadlift thing is, basically you have a shot 3 to 5 minutes out from this really big attempt. And if you do that, you will see an increase in your deadlift. And I use deadlift as an example. It's all branded around whiskey and deadlift because, the bar, if anything goes wrong, like if you're squatting, benching, doing something, the weight is over the top of you. The deadlift, the weight's going to fall to the ground. So, from a safety perspective, that's what we.
Now,
that's the theory behind whiskey and deadlift. I wrote an article on it a couple years ago, and it has since become a thing.
And there's got to be a little trial and error in this, I would imagine. So quite a bit of air along that trial way.
Yeah, so it's definitely something that's individual based as far as the amount and obviously alcohol is bad for you as a whole, right? So it's going to interfere with your recovery, interfere with your hormones, all this sort of stuff. So it's not something that you do frequently, maybe once or twice a month before a big lift. So if you think a shot or two once or twice a month is bad for you, you might want to rethink life a little bit. You might be a little too strict on things. That's all I'm saying.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So, it's funny. Earlier you had mentioned the Russians were known for drinking vodka, and I didn't know about that WADA case. I didn't know I didn't know WADA tested for alcohol.
It's actually a huge performance increaser. The worst is in shooting sports.
Oh, really?
Yes. Because it calms you. You get the shakes go down. You all the stuff that we talk about. Right? That stuff happens, and yeah, it's a huge performance increaser in shooting sports. So it was banned in shooting sports a long time ago. Back before they did that, the old ski and shoot ones. Sometimes when they get to the skis, they'd be almost so drunk that they couldn't ski.
I have fought at places with Russians. And, the Russians will also smoke prior to a fight. They'll open their locker room and there's smoke. The coaches are smoking. The athletes are smoking. The Japanese also do that. We had a very famous fighter named Sakuraba. He would be smoking before matches as part of his warm-up. I don't think that was meant as an enhancer. I always took it as just a weakness and the guy had an addiction. But that's very compelling what you're telling me.
It works in, I mean, if you're in that right state, it's going to put you in whatever frame of mind you're in. So you're in that, like, you're getting in that fight or flight, I'm fired up, I'm on. You take a shot and all of a sudden that can go through, like, take it to another level. But if you have too much and it interferes with things, it's going to be not a good thing, right?
So did you ever have any Olympic aspirations? Was that ever something you wanted to do, try to make an Olympic team go in? They can test the squat, they can test the deadlift. Is that something you looked at?
They don't have that in the Olympics.
Neither the squat or the deadlift?
No.
Now, what do they do where they pull it all the way up? What's that called? That's called a jerk and clean?
It's
or power clean?
Clean and jerk.
Clean and jerk.
Yep. So they've got the snatch and the clean and jerk. That's like, it's a bar, it's a weight, but it's like comparing volleyball to basketball, right? So they're different sports. I physically cannot do them because I've got a lot of elbow dysfunction, so I physically can't get in the positions to perform those lifts.
So that takes the Olympics. The Olympics, they don't even do bench press. Now that I think about it,
no,
do they?
it's so the Olympic lifts is a different barbell sport. So,
okay.
Yep. They use weights, but it's a different sport, different lifts.
Mark Henry, world's strongest man, according to Vince McMahon. Could you outlift him?
I don't know.
Probably. If you had enough whiskey.
That's true. All I can tell you is there's nobody in the world doing what I'm doing right now.
So, a little bit for our listeners, too. When you went into the corporate world, you were working at an aerospace company. You were essentially tasked with getting parts together that build airplanes. Real layman's way of saying it. Where that comes in interesting is when I was at your gym, you had an entire equipment area, equipment that I've never seen, that you made, that you took the skills of learning how to piece things together, work with steel, work with metal, work with different parts, made your own equipment, and you even had a place in the back where you were packaging this up and shipping it around the world. I mean, that's got to be pretty fulfilling that you go into the corporate world, you grind it out every day, and then you find a way to apply that skill to something that you love.
Yeah, it is, and it's I can't be thankful enough for the career. And a lot of times when I first started this, people are like, "Dude, why are you involved with this?" Because they didn't know my background. But for the last 18 years, that's what I did, was run manufacturing companies. So the last 10 years of that was at the executive level, where I was either director of operations, general manager, but I was tasked with coming in and basically like turning around a company's division or an entire company. And I ran automotive companies, high tech, aerospace. So it was a great experience and has given me a lot of connections. And just my background. Like I said, I've got an engineering degree and a master's in business as well. So I was quite successful and sought after in the Portland area. Well, beyond that, but that's all. I never felt like moving for doing what I did. And like the aerospace company. I went in there, I think that was a four-year stint, but the company was about ready to lose its contracts with Boeing, which, the 100+ employees were going to lose their jobs. It was going to shut down. I mean, they were a critical supplier for the Boeing 737. We also did work for, Bombardier, some military work, but primarily it was for Boeing. Directly fed the 737 with flight critical components. And the company was failing financially, and it was failing both on quality and delivery metrics. And by the time I left, it was the best supplier in its category to Boeing for both quality and delivery. Went from, we're around like a loss, losing $1 million EBITDA to it was almost $3 million EBITDA when I left. Was able to get the company turned around completely with Boeing, got the company up and prepped for sale, went through the auction process and got the company sold. And then went on to the next challenge from there. So
now let me ask you a serious question. What is EBITDA?
Earnings before incomes, taxes, and depreciation. Course. So for
our listeners, I knew that. I wanted everybody else to know it.
Sorry.
All right, very cool. So what do you have coming up? I mean, you've got more competitions. You're training hard every day. What's next?
So I've actually retired from powerlifting at this point. I consider myself an exhibition lifter now. And I just kind of do what I feel is fun and what can demonstrate, our approaches and how they work. So most recently, I did almost 3 reps with a 1,000-pound deadlift. And that makes me the lightest person to have ever deadlifted 1,000 pounds, I think by like almost 140 pounds. The other guys doing it are like 380, 400, 420. I'm also did it with what's called a sumo style deadlift. Nobody has ever even deadlifted close to 1,000 pounds with that style of deadlift. So not only did I do it, but I repped it. And right now I'm prepping for next, not this coming Saturday, but the following Saturday, I will be at the Arnold Fitness Expo out in Columbus, Ohio. And I will be at the Animal Cage, and I'll be doing an exhibition lift where I'm going to be doing multiple lifts in under 5 minutes. The plan is to squat and deadlift, as well as one other lift in between those two. But the big one there is to squat and deadlift 900 pounds in under 5 minutes. And nobody's ever done anything like that.
I don't even know why they try.
It's pretty hellacious. It's brutal. I'll tell you that.
I watched some of your deadlifting on YouTube, and one thing that stood out for me was your technique, was the position, of your shins, of your hands. It was a sumo lift, in fact, that I saw. Who taught you the technique? I mean, did you ever have a mentor in powerlifting, or is this just something that you had to go out and learn yourself?
So it's a long. I've been lifting for over 25 years, and it's been a process. And now what we do is, we're taking. Essentially, we teach people how to create the right tension and load in the body, prepare them for themselves for the lift. If you do that, the lift will come out perfectly, and that's the fundamental process behind what we do. And it's taken me years, decades, to come up with this methodology, but it's really simple and straightforward. And we cover this on our website, kabuki.ms. That's KABUKI.ms for movement systems. But these are the same approaches that I talked about that are being used and followed by the strength coaches in the professional and collegiate world, as well as in physical therapy. And this is, we lecture to chiropractic and physical therapy colleges. That material on the kabuki.ms site is used in the curriculum for some physical therapy college as well. So this is not just random stuff we're talking about here. This is, these are basic human movement principles, and they can be applied to any loaded movement. The stuff I do with my feet and how we root and ground to the floor, the same stuff that you're probably doing when you're fighting. You may not be aware of it, but these principles apply across the board. And so, yeah, it's been a process of basically figuring that out, because there was no one even out there doing what we're doing and teaching the way that we teach right now. We had to develop this. And so, and it's funny though, because I get these comments all the time on the YouTube or whatever. You're sitting next to me. Everybody that only sees me online, they think I have these some amazing perfect leverages because they see the bar. It looks like the bar barely moves. And they're like, you're a mid. Everybody thinks I'm 5'4", and I've got some weird build. And I'm like, no, I'm completely average height and completely average wingspan. I mean, but for some reason, everybody thinks I'm a midget. So,
not that there's anything wrong with that. So, how I know nutrition is a big deal for you. You're an expert in nutrition. I know that's very important in what you do, and essentially in all sports. When you read about nutrition, and I'll tell you, and I'm kind of, talking from my own experience here, but for me, it can be very infuriating. I mean, I haven't heard anything out there ever that I have fully agreed with. These nutritionalists cannot get it right. They can't agree. The sanctioning around it is totally different. But if you have guys like you and I who are actually living it, actually going through you'll have people that tell you shouldn't have sugar. That is the most I have no idea where that came from. There's people that tell you shouldn't have salt. There's people that have told you for years that you shouldn't have fat. They don't know what they're talking about, has been my experience. And there's different people. It comes down to exercise and workload. You could get really scientific and talk about blood types. Will you just talk on nutrition and all the things that you hear that's created this huge billion-dollar industry, and how much of it is complete BS as a guy that actually has to do it and then go out and perform?
So just be clear, I wouldn't call myself an expert on nutrition. I'm an expert on human movement principles, but I will give you my views on nutrition because it's really not that complicated. I mean, it is, if you want to gain or lose weight, you've got to start and establish what your base metabolic rate is. And that is not going online and finding a calculator. That is actually sitting down for 2 weeks and tracking every bit of food, knowing whether they're going up or going down. And, essentially there's 3,500 calories per pound of body fat. So if you add 500 calories a day or subtract 500 calories a day, that adds up to 3,500 a week. Now you've got your macros, right? So you've got to have a balance there. Obviously, carbs as an athlete, are beneficial. So, keto diets and all that can be great from a health perspective. They can be great for losing weight. But if you need to fuel your training, you've got to keep carbs in there. So, you want to establish basically, here's my base protein amount. You start with that. And you establish the base protein amount, make sure you've got enough, good fats in there. So maybe, 100, 125 or whatever it is. Maybe you're a 250 pound guy. So you probably have like 200 plus grams of protein in your system. And now you adjust and tailor your carbs on top of that for what you need to do with your, whether you want to go up or go down. So you may get into a carb restrictive state or less carbs if you're like after an aggressive diet, because you've got to do that. I know, Chael, you prepped for a lot of fights, right? And you've probably had some times where you're pretty low caloric deficit, pretty low carbs. But those are things that you have to do during those times. But if you're training, I'm sure that you've got good amount of carbs and fats and protein in your system, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's freaking math. It's not hard. But if you cut out your carbs, you're going to sacrifice performance. If you cut out your fats, your body's, your joints, your hormones, all that's going to go to crap. If you don't have good protein, you don't have the building blocks to maintain your muscle mass. It's not that complicated. Again, I'm not an expert. This is a very high level, like this is what you do. And, people think that there's like some secret or some secret diet or this or that. Like different diets work with different lifestyles. So if you're highly disciplined and you don't care as much for performance, keto diet can be great for you. You'll lose a lot of fat. Your performance in the gym is going to suffer a little bit, but most people can't do that. So there's all these different spectrums of like diets. So anybody that tells you this is the one diet, it's full of shit. That's just all it comes down to, right? You've got to understand like, what can I fit in my life? What level of discipline do I have? And then you've got to have a diet that simply matches the math that needs to happen for you to either gain or lose weight or maintain the same, and then be able to have the energy to fuel what you need to do.
Yeah, see,
it's not complicated.
I love what you just said there, because it's not complicated for me either, but I've lived this life. I've been in a sport where I have to make weight since I was 9 years old. So maybe I'm just so close to this that it seems simple, but it is what you just said. It is simple math. If you eat more calories than you burn, you're going to gain weight. If you burn more calories than you consume, you're going to lose weight. And as far as what the foods are, and this, I could make an argument for why a guy should have a piece of pecan pie, word for word, with any expert that wants to tell me a guy should eat a bag of carrots. I could go word for word with them, and all it's going to do is confuse people. But at the end of the day, if the guy eating the pie burns more calories than the guy eating the carrots, he's going to lose weight, if that's your goal. And that's another thing that goes on in this society, in the world of dieting, is that everybody's got to lose weight. Well, I know plenty of people that are trying to gain weight.
Absolutely. That's why I kept saying gain or lose or maintain. Like, not everything is just lose weight.
Right.
And if you gain too fast, you're going to put on a lot of, it's all a balance, So.
It's all a balance. And as far as this whole healthy eating thing, I mean, it could just drive somebody absolutely insane. And you don't have to look any further than the supplement companies. We just came through, and we're largely coming through it, but we're still largely in it. But it was stronger about a decade ago, this fat-free era. No oils, God. No fats. Now,
that was
Chris,
horrible.
The supplement companies.
And then now everything went, because now they put all this no-fat food in the supermarkets, right? And all the no-fat food is packed full of sugars.
They traded it for taste.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's so interesting. You don't have to look any further than this, though. The supplement companies now that used to only put out the proteins and the HMBs and the creatines, they are now putting out supplements that are nothing but fat. And a lot of it's omegas and fish oils. I'll concede that, but it's still pure fat. They're out selling fats because people aren't getting enough fats in their diet, because some prick a number of years ago came out and convinced the world that you shouldn't have any fats. And you're just sitting there banging your head on a wall going, guys, I get that you're trying to sell books and products, but you don't know what you're talking about. And there's not a lot of guys like you and I who weight is so important to our daily life and what we do. For me, I have to make weight. For you, you need to gain weight to gain muscle to do what you do. There's not a lot of people that have actually put it in practice. It's very easy to sit down and write a book and make some money and try to influence somebody, but actually carrying out the practice, there's a very small group of us, and we're the first to tell you the diet world that has the ear of the media doesn't know what they're talking about.
Yep. And the funny part, and that's why I made the point of saying anybody that tells you a specific diet is the answer is wrong, because that's how you sell a book. That's how you sell a supplement. That's how you, like, here's the way. But there's so many ways, because there's so many ways. How many different approaches have you followed at different points in preparation for fight, post-fight, so on? Your diet is a whole lot of different diets, right?
Sure.
I mean, because it's all just different ways to approach that based on what your needs for your training are and what you're trying to accomplish at that time is. Like so there is no, like I said, there is no one way, and there's so many different levels. Like your level of discipline as you go into a fight is way different than in the off season, right? So you probably want to have more flexibility, like, oh, wife wants to go to dinner or do these other things, like you can't just be I can't do that all the time, right? You'll hear about it, won't you?
Oh, I fully agree. Hey, listeners, go do this. Go to ultimateweightcut.com. Use the promo code Bad Guy. You're going to get 40% off. I think the guide's like $14. Use the promo code. I think you're spending $8 or $9. Go to ultimateweightcut.com. You are going to get diet plans, recipes. You're going to get rehydration tips, particularly if you have to cut weight, like in a wrestling, boxing, MMA type of format. Go to ultimateweightcut.com. Use the promo code Bad Guy. You're going to get 40% off.
Hi, I'm Larry McReynolds, host of the new podcast, Larry Mac, America's Crew Chief on Podcast One. As a two-time Daytona 500 winning crew chief and current analyst for Fox Sports and FS1, I'll be bringing you a unique perspective on everything NASCAR, from how a race plays out, strategy on pit road, technical issues, and anything in between. Download new episodes now on podcastone.com or subscribe at iTunes.
You're welcome with Chael Sonnen.
All right, Chris. So what else is new, man? What else do you do in life? What excites you? What do you like? Movies? You like it? You go out and dance? You look like a dancer. Hey, you break dance a little bit?
Oh yeah, all the time. I love four-wheeling and fabrication.
Nice.
So I kind of specialize in suspension and steering design. Sounds a little weird, but you understand my engineering background. And so I build high-performance vehicles basically from the ground up. And I've actually been featured in more off-road magazines or publications than I've been featured for my lifting. So one of the rigs I'm working on right now is just crazy monstrosity, four-wheel steering, 47-inch tires, supercharged, rig that has central tire inflation. You can air up and air down while you're driving. Basically, people ask me, well, why? I'm like, well, because I can go anywhere and do anything I want.
Because I know how.
Yeah,
sure.
Exactly. I know how. And but it's really unique because it's the same process when building a human. Like you're trying to build a performance, a performance athlete. It's this balance of stability and mobility and everything's individualized and it's fine tuning that. And so you do the same thing from a vehicle design standpoint. And this is not like buying some kit or doing this. Like one of my daily drivers, I've got this Dodge Ram, and people always ask me, "Oh, what kit did you put on there?" I'm like, "No, I pulled it in the shop and I took out a plasma torch and I stripped everything off the frame, and then I built my own."
So you do it yourself. You don't sub this out. Your hands.
Yes.
Really? What do you have in your garage?
My shop.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, we've got, like I said, we've got a manufacturing division for our company now, so I've got a lot more tools available for doing this stuff. But yeah, I mean, I start from scratch, and it's funny because I'm driving around this thing. It's in Portland, because it's Priuses and Subarus and whatnot. I'm driving around this giant jacked up Dodge on 42s around town, scaring everybody on 205.
Oh, I do the same thing. That's awesome.
But the thing is, it performs better than the rig did stock. I can slam over the mountain at 70 miles an hour, cutting the turns, and it's tighter. You hit bumps, it's smoother. I did a photo shoot with it a number of years ago for Warren Industries. It was actually ended up on a Spike TV commercial for a while. Me doing these, I think my tax said 60. I don't know if I was probably going 40. These cookies at the same time. I had my wife and my son was 2 years old at the time, and there's these 2 foot deep ruts as I'm doing these cookies spinning out through, and just like I said, the wife and kids were in there, and they were all right, because it was not this big jarring ride. I mean, it's a Baja, suspension. That's what it's built to handle, and that was my daily driver for a number of years. And
now, is this just for personal enjoyment, or do you sell these things? I mean, I have to think this would be high demand. People are going to hear about this. Go, where can I buy one of these?
No. It's
purely for yourself.
Yeah,
that's an expensive hobby you got, my friend.
It is. I have way too much money and time wrapped up in vehicles. I'll tell you that.
Oh, I can only imagine.
But I start from scratch, and it's I love the design process and the tinkering. Going, okay, this isn't working. What are we doing, and how are we approaching this? And It's the same thing. Like I said, this is how you build an athlete, and this is how we build the tools that we build. I mean, the gym that you walked into, we call that the lab. It's the lab for our company. It's our human performance laboratory where we take the products that we design and we test them and we validate them and go back to the drawing board if they don't work or refine them. And that's why we're outfitting, the pros, the colleges, the physical therapy centers. They're buying our strength training equipment. They're buying our devices to help treat the body and get it performing better. So,
and speaking of the lab, is that a gym that anybody can come in and join, or is that invite only? How do you get to work out with you and the guys at the lab?
Pretty much anybody can swing by and anybody can join. We don't do any advertising because that works out, because then we end up with the only people that know about us are people that are like attuned with, it's not going to be anybody just listening to your show, right? It's not going to be, anybody that's going to be researching strength training and stumble upon our gym. So we're in you've been there, but it's a giant industrial building in the middle of an industrial area. So it's not going to be something that, somebody that's going to be joining an LA Fitness or 24 Hour is going to stumble upon. So by doing that, we're able to filter the type of people that are there, because it's not a place for people that feel that they have to be at the gym, or, I've got to go train, I've got to get in shape tonight. Like, we want people that are like-minded, that want to be better. They're pushing themselves. They're going to push the people around them. To me, it's all about environment. The gym was built for entirely selfish reasons. It was built because I wanted to be the best in the world. So I wanted to have the right tools. I wanted to have the right equipment, and I wanted to have, the right environment.
Sure.
And that means putting the right people around me.
Yes, success breeds success.
Absolutely.
Few statements are any true, and you'll learn that in life. But yes, if you get around the right people with like-minded goals, good things happen.
Yep.
All right, you're a very nice guy. Are you secretly a dick? I mean, I feel like you should have some resentments through some of the plights that you have. Are you always such a nice guy? I mean, do you ever have like a bad moment? You go home and like break a wall here or there?
Well, you've watched my videos. For some reason, another internet fallacy is that that I am like, I have major anger issues because I'm really intense with my lifting. Like, and to me, it's like a balance. I call them balance of extremes. When it comes to being on point and on stage, you've got to be on fire. You've got to be like in another world, right? You know what I'm talking about. Sure. But that doesn't mean you're walking around like that all the time. Like, you're not, walk out of the gym and, lats flared. I'm the biggest, baddest dude around, give it a break, man. Give it a rest. Give it a rest. Give it a rest. We're all just people. We're all just getting along. We've got our own things. And you know what? I'll mock both of us, right? With your fighting, with my lifting, we're not doing anything great or epic. We're not like war heroes or, stuff like that. When you walk out on that in the cage, though, you've got that in your head, though, right?
Sure.
I mean, and so that's what I call the balance of extreme. That's like, we call it your squat face, getting your squat face on, getting your mental game on. But when it's done, take that mask off,
Let it go.
Let it go. Like, so.
Get in that zone for a moment and then go back to being a regular guy. All right, Andre handed you some notes here. What do you got?
Oh, we got some coupon codes. So
let's do it.
All right. So on our website, kabukistrength.com, KABUKI. So you can check out the products. We've also got apparel, things like that. You want to get yourself a nice whiskey and deadlift shirt, anything
Gotta
like
have
that.
One.
You can get save $25. Oh wait, no, sorry, 15% off. With the code BADGUY. You can also use the same code BADGUY to get $25 off, but basically 50% off membership to our subscription-based movement web portal, kabuki.ms. I mentioned that earlier, KABUKI.ms. There's a link on Kabuki Strength for that as well. So, Andre, did I get all that right? Excellent.
We got it in. All right, cool. Chris, unless you got anything else you want to get off your chest, we can call it.
I think we're pretty good.
I appreciate you coming down here, man. So, Joel, what'd you think of that? Pretty cool guy, huh? Looks like a monster, but a hell of a nice guy.
Well, a couple things that he touched on that I really agree with, especially somebody that has lost and gained a ton of weight, and I've done it hundreds of different ways. And, yeah, I hear a lot of, hey, once you get down, you need to stay down, and you need to be conservative and this, that, and the other. Well, when you're heavy, you don't think about that. You just think about getting down. But the thing that he said is it's all math. One of the things that I like about Ultimate Weight Cut, I've plugged in the foods that I like. It's all right there. It's very simple. I have found a supplement. I don't want to mention it yet because those things get a little squirrely. I might have a different one, but right now it's working. But the thing with Ultimate Weight Cut, it's working now. I feel good. I'm sore in the morning because I'm old, but I really, really do enjoy having that kind of structure. So if you want to know how I'm going to, get down to 210 pounds and fight Wes, it's within your guide, the guide Ultimate
Weight Cut at ultimateweightcut.com.
Now, it's blowing up what you said about Tito. It's blowing up, and I want to back up the listeners to Saturday night. So we go over there together. I ride in the van with you and all the production team. You say, hey, you're my plus one, but when I get on the floor, I don't have a ticket or a credential. You go to a meeting with your whole crew. Not 30 seconds later, somebody in a blue coat comes up to me and says, do you have a credential? And I'm like, no. And they're like, do you have a ticket? And I'm like, no. And they're like, how do you get here? And I'm like, well, I came with Chael. I'm his plus one. And they're like, well, we don't know Chael. We're going to have to get our manager down here. And I'm like, whoa, hold on. Let me just walk out of this building.
How about I just leave?
Yeah, how about I just walk out of the building, go buy a ticket, and come back in? So I do that. So I go, as soon as I walk out the door, somebody's got a floor ticket for $165. I buy it. I go have dinner. I come back a couple hours later. Now, nap guy, suit guy, Tito, he's bouncing around like a peacock. But there's another fighter that I want to talk about, and I don't know him from Adam. But wherever he walks, he should have this song going. With a cloud of smoke behind him. Literally, a cloud of smoke behind one Luke Rockhold. So I'm down on the floor in the cool guy entrance where only the cool guys can come through. And Luke is dressed to the nines. He's got a perfect shirt on. He's got cool glasses on. It's pressed in print everywhere it should be. I mean, this is a good-looking guy. He's got a beautiful woman right next to him. And he is walking. He looks so cool. There is no way on earth that somebody could be that cool without practicing. There's just no way. So Lukey Baby had to practice looking that cool. Now, what a lot of cool people want when they go to a place like that where the peacock is. The peacock's running around. Tito's running around. He's wanting to sign autographs. Now, Lukey Baby, he doesn't, because he will not look at anybody offering them the opportunity to come up and ask for a picture or ask for an autograph. He did see my big barbaric ass. I was plugging in a phone trying to get some charge. And I looked at him, and he looked away real quick to make sure I didn't run up and get a picture. I didn't want a picture. I wanted to roll over and start laughing because, dude, there's no way on earth that you've made yourself. I mean, dude, listen, Lukey Baby. You're a good-looking dude. You wake up good-looking. You're muscle-bound, okay? You don't have to go to the extra step that you went to building this. Man, there should have been, that song should have been playing. There should have been a puff of smoke. There should have been ring card girls rolling out a red carpet the way he was walking. And another thing, Lukey Baby, listen, man. Listen to me. Listen to the Godfather. Okay? If you don't want people talking to you or wanting an autograph or a picture, don't go to a fight, dummy. Don't go to the one place that everybody is going to know you. I mean, this guy's got everything. He's got looks. He's got charisma. He's got beautiful women. Dude, you're cool, man. You could have came over in flip-flops and sandals and been that cool. That's what I got, man. I literally almost doubled up laughing when I seen that. I was like, they've got to be he had to practice to look that cool.
And for that, you're welcome.
Baby.
Thanks for listening to You're Welcome with Chael Sonnen. Download new episodes every week at podcastone.com. That's podcastone.com. Everybody knows that February is the shortest month of the year. But at Podcast One, we aren't taking any breaks. We've got a boatload of new shows coming your way this month. Like 2 from Forbes, Under 30, and The List. Or Postmortem with Mick Garris. And Clipcast, the official, unofficial podcast of the LA Clippers. But we're not done. Still to come this month, The Raven Effect from pro wrestler Raven. A little bit of Growing the Dynasty with Jeff and Jessica Robertson. Plus, in upcoming weeks, shows from Kim Zolciak, Ina Tori Spelling, The Retronauts, and many more. To get more details, go to podcastone.com now. Podcastone.com. Stay tuned for the latest AP News headlines from Podcast One, right after this.
AP Update. I'm Tim McGuire. President Trump and top aides deliver conflicting messages about the crackdown on people living in this country illegally. AP White House correspondent Mark Smith reports.
To a business group, the president boasted new guidelines allow for quick deportation of drug lords and other bad dudes.
They're the bad ones. And it's a military operation.
Yet in Mexico City, Homeland Secretary John Kelly was assuring officials there'll be
no use of military force.
So did Trump misspeak? Spokesman Sean Spicer insists not.
The president was using that as an adjective. It's happening with precision.
As in military precision. Mexicans were alarmed last week when a memo disavowed by the White House did suggest a large National Guard force could be sent to bolster immigration enforcement. Mark Smith at the White House.
Kelly also said that no U.S. troops will be involved in border security. AP Update, I'm Tim McGuire.